Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. So you saved for decades. You did everything right. You invested for the long term. You built up a solid nest egg. And now you're retired. But instead of enjoying your money, you're hesitating. Or worse, you're feeling guilty every time you go to spend it. And if this is you, you're not alone. Most retirees aren't using the very savings they worked so hard to build. Today, we're going to go over why and how to successfully flip that switch from being a saver to a spender, because it's not just about the numbers, it's also about the mindset. So why don't retirees spend their savings? Here's the puzzle. According to research, most retirees consistently underspend what they're capable of in retirement. In fact, the most popular withdrawal rate among retirees is just 2%, when we know that a safe rate of withdrawal is near 4%, and many retirees could afford to take out even more. So what's going on here? There are three big psychological factors at play. First is loss aversion. We feel the pain of losing money twice as strongly as the joy of gaining it. When you see a balance go down, even if it's planned spending, this can still feel like a loss. Framing bias. We tend to treat income like it's meant to be spent. But savings, on the other hand, that is something to be protected at all costs. And narrow bracketing. This is when we mentally separate our money into buckets instead of viewing it as one big picture. So often when we see retirees, they tend to spend freely when it comes to Social Security or a pension. That feels like an income with the intent to be spent. But when it comes to their own personal investments or savings, they seem to hesitate because the brain frames it differently. And you can't really blame us because we're spending 20, 30, 40 years of investing with the mindset of don't touch this yet. Framing bias and narrow bracketing, on the surface, they might sound like the same thing, but they're a little different. Framing bias is how you emotionally perceive each type of money. Income feels safe to spend, while savings feels off limits. Narrow bracketing, on the other hand, kind of organizes money into different categories. So rather than looking at your portfolio as one whole puzzle, instead it looks at it into different categories. Now, if we talk about framing, that kind of fuels the emotion behind things. And then narrow bracketing, that's keeping everything in its own little silo, but together they can hold you back from spending with confidence in retirement. It's kind of like sitting at a beautifully set dinner table, but then not eating because you're afraid to mess it up. You're hungry, the food's right there, but it seems too pristine to touch. And this is what's happening with people's savings and investments. Now let's talk about what retirees do spend. The data is crystal clear. Retirees tend to spend about 80% of their lifetime income streams in retirement. So think of Social Security, a pension, or perhaps an annuity. But when it comes to savings and investments, they're only willing to spend about half. And when you break that down further, Social Security and pensions feel like a paycheck, so they tend to get spent. Investment accounts, they feel like assets, so they tend to get hoarded. Imagine two retirees, both with $1 million saved. Retiree A takes $300,000 and buys an annuity that pays out $1,500 a month for life. That's $18,000 a year in guaranteed income, no decisions needed. The other $700,000 stays invested. Retiree B keeps the full $1 million invested and plans to withdraw from it as needed. Now, who ends up spending more? The one with the annuity by far, because annuity income feels like a paycheck. Research shows that guaranteed income streams like annuities or Social Security or a pension get spent at a greater rate. Retirees are willing to spend 80 to 85% of this. That's over $14,000 a year spent from the annuity alone, not including anything they might withdraw from investments. The second retiree, research shows they're likely only to spend around 2% of their portfolio per year. That's about $20,000 from their full $1 million. So despite having $300,000 less invested, the one with the annuity spends nearly the same as the one with the investments, and they often feel more confident as they do it. So it's not just about the financials, it's also about mindset. One retiree here sees money coming in, whereas the other only sees money going out. And that brings us to something important. Required minimum distributions, or RMDs. They might seem like just a dry tax rule, but in reality, they could be one of the best psychological nudges in retirement planning. When the government comes along and says, hey, you have to take some money out of your IRA, most people don't just take it out and leave it in a bank account. Instead, they spend it. Now, I know the IRS wants you to take it out so they can collect taxes on it, and let's set that aside for a second. Let's look at what this can do for you or the typical retiree. It can do something important, which is give you permission to spend. Even though this is your money, being required to dip into it might reframe it in the mind of some retirees, and it might then get looked at as income that you're welcome to spend. And for some retirees, this can make all the difference in the world. And we have data to back it up. At age 65, the average spend rate from qualified savings, like IRAs and 401ks, is only about 2.1% for married households. That's pretty low. But by age 70, that number nudges upward to about 2.6%. And by age 80, the spend rate from qualified accounts climbs to nearly 3.84%, while non-qualified accounts, those not subject to RMDs, only goes up to about 3.3%. So what's happening? Over time and throughout retirement, the gap between draws from qualified and non-qualified accounts shifts and gets wider, and it's likely due to RMDs. But what we see is that when retirees take out their RMDs, that they spend this money. So it's not just about taxes, it's also about perception. So how do you use all of this insight to actually help you enjoy your money in retirement? We reframe it. The goal is to stop treating your 401k or your IRA as some fragile piggy bank. Instead, reframe it and see it for what it truly is, which is a retirement paycheck. And here's 3 practical ways to do this. You could use managed payout funds. These are professionally managed funds that automatically send you a regular monthly withdrawal, just like a paycheck. These funds are designed to calculate a sustainable withdrawal rate, rebalance internally, and really take the guesswork out of retirement spending. But if you want to go the self-directed route, like with your 401k or your IRA, you can absolutely set up a payout strategy just like this. But there is a distinction. True managed payout funds, these are pre-built products typically offered by firms like Vanguard, Fidelity, T. Rowe Price that are built specifically for retirement income. Like I said, they usually calculate a safe rate of withdrawal, typically in the ballpark of about 4%. They rebalance internally and then just simply send out that monthly check to you. There's no guesswork, you're not even involved. They're available within some self-directed brokerage IRAs and taxable accounts, as long as your custodian offers these specific funds. But if your firm doesn't offer these, you won't have access to the full set it and forget it experience. But that doesn't mean you can't recreate this on your own. If you're managing your own investments, you can still replicate this kind of payout experience. You just want to set up an automatic monthly withdrawal from your accounts. So basically during your working years, you set up automatic contributions. Now you reverse that once you get to retirement. Now you do want to check your portfolio semi-annually or annually. Make sure you rebalance so you're staying within your risk tolerance, and make sure your withdrawal is still suitable for your needs for the long term. And now you know my preference. I often lean towards self-directed strategies and low-cost index funds. This helps you keep more of your money working hard for you, especially over longer time horizons. So yes, you can absolutely recreate this experience if you're going the DIY route, but it is going to require a little bit more hands-on attention. Some retirement plans now include income projections, showing not just how much money you have saved, but how that would translate to a monthly income. Instead of seeing a $1.2 million balance, which can feel untouchable, you might see something like, this could provide $5,000 a month for life. It's a subtle shift, but a powerful one, and it can help turn your lump sum into a stream of income that you feel comfortable spending. You could also annuitize a portion of your portfolio. This means using part of your retirement savings to purchase a guaranteed monthly income, an annuity. Now, this option is not for everyone, and there are certainly pros and cons that we should go over. On the pro side, it provides a steady, predictable income income for life. It removes the pressure of investment decisions. It can reduce anxiety of outliving your money, which is a very real fear for many retirees. And here's the key. People with annuities tend to give themselves permission to spend more because it feels like a paycheck. But let's also consider the cons. There is far less liquidity. You can't access the full lump sum once it's annuitized. There's a potential loss of purchasing power if the annuity doesn't include inflation adjustments, and fees and terms vary, so you need to shop very carefully if you're looking at an annuity, because these fees can add up fast. But a big takeaway is that you don't have to annuitize your entire portfolio. Instead, you could annuitize a portion of it, maybe 20 or 30%, and that could give you permission to spend because it creates this psychological safety net that you have this guaranteed income stream coming in every single month. Maybe it helps to think of your savings and investments like a fruit tree. If you are afraid to ever pick the fruit, it eventually rots and you don't get to enjoy it. But if you're careful about how you harvest, you get to enjoy the sweetness of the fruit and how that tree produces year after year. So for a lot of retirees, this could be their savings. So here's the bottom line. Most retirees are leaving life on the table, not because they can't afford more, but because they're afraid to touch the plate. They're spending too little, not because they don't have enough, but because they're afraid to even touch it. And if you give yourself permission to spend, it gives you permission to really enjoy the retirement that you've worked so hard to build. A great retirement isn't just about saving well, it's also about spending well. And when you use your savings as an income, well, then it gets to be used as a tool, not just a trophy. So what's your plan on how you're going to spend once you get to retirement? Leave your thoughts in a comment down below. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I'll talk to you soon. Bye. My lights are burnt out. Oh, they're just dead. They're rechargeable batteries because there's no electric in that wall. And I'm renting, and it bothers me so much, but I didn't want to wait like the hour or two to charge them. They'll be on for the next video, but that bugs me so much because I love those sconces. Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin, and welcome back to the back. And instead, see it for what it truly is.